Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Release Stuck Trauma and Tension with Somatic Movement and Pandiculation. Reset your stress reflexes for greater comfort and ease in your body. My name is Stephen Dynam, the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm always delighted to be here, getting to learn, expand creative embodiment with you and with one of the true pioneers in this arena. Her name is Martha Peterson. She is the founder of Essential Somatics and the author of Move Without Pain. She's taught a number of Shift programs that have been widely loved and is really offers a very integrative approach to how we work with our bodies, tension, and really align with the natural unfolding of who we are. So Martha, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me back. It's a pleasure. I look forward to it.
Great. Well, I'm excited, and we're going to have a brand new program with Martha called Somatic Movement and Pandiculation to Release Trapped Trauma. We're also going to share a little bit about towards the end of the hour. So there's more to come if you want to go further than what we do today. So Martha, let's begin our journey today with a little bit about your journey of particularly into the somatic field and why pandiculation has become such a key ingredient of how you work.
Well, I came from a background of movement. My whole life has been nothing but movement in the body. Starting out life as a professional dancer, then going into the bodywork profession as a massage therapist, then going into nursing school with the intention of becoming a midwife in order to inspire and change people's awareness of themselves, mothers and families. And and then I became actually a creative movement teacher with children in a primary school to bring dance and movement into the curriculum. So to get them when they're young. And yet at the same time, as I got older and I pursued all of these incredible professions, with the exception of midwifery, I never did finish that up. However, I began to feel less comfortable in my body the older I got. And I was really disconcerted about this because I knew so much technically, anatomy, physiology. I was also a Reiki master, so I understood the energetic body, and I have a deep appreciation for that. And yet nothing that I did for myself felt good. And so through the wonderful counsel of my older sister and my venerable mother, and they both told me about Hannah Somatics. It's also known as clinical somatics, and about these somatic exercises that I could do that would get me out of pain. And I thought, oh gosh, there's so many things. How do I sift through everything that everybody says is going to help me? And but I was so desperate because at the same time that my body was feeling more restricted and stiffer and tighter in spite of all of my training as a dancer and as a mover. I felt like my life was kind of feeling more restricted. My body and my life were mirroring each other, which was even more disconcerting because I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was going on. So I lay down and I learned these gentle somatic movements. I listened to Thomas Hanna talk about pandiculation and sensory motor amnesia and stress reflexes and what we have in common with animals, how animals pandiculate, how humans pandiculate, how we could reset our neurophysiology, our brain to muscle connection. And I have to say, Stephen, it was an epiphany that I stood up after a couple of hours of doing these movements, and my pain had diminished by about 70%. And I was able to walk. And I felt as if I had a new lease on life. I emotionally felt different. Psychologically, I had hope. And so this is the route that I went down because the more I learned about it, especially about pandiculation and stress reflexes, I realized that I had the key to reset not only my body, but my life. Because this stress and trauma doesn't just show up physically, it shows up psychologically and emotionally. And that's how I came to this work, and why, instead of doing all the stretching that I did as a dancer, all the yanking and pushing and forcing, and thinking somebody else was an expert on my body. I turned my attention inward and applied these principles to myself. And indeed, I feel, as I get older, I feel even stronger and more aware and more, you know, at 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 the source of my own life.
Mm. Well, it's a beautiful story and example of how doing this work can just free you up on multiple levels, even with the background that you had, like how much your life was getting more constrained by constraints within your body and systems. And so you referenced this term pandiculation, which is probably not a term that most people are using in daily life, but maybe you can start there and tell us a little bit about what pandiculation is and how it actually connects to some of what we see in the animal kingdom as well.
If you have a cat or a dog or a horse, or you've even watched birds, or even bunny rabbits, um, do what we think is stretching. They reach out their forelimbs and then their hind legs, and they lengthen. They look like they're stretching. What they're not stretching, they're pandiculating. And they actually don't make a conscious choice to do it. They don't say, oh, my back is a little tight, so I think I'll pandiculate. It's an automatic brainstem reflex that resets their muscular system. So whenever their brain is sensing, well, it's more the spindle cells in the muscles, the brain to muscle connection, that there's a sensation of, oh, there's rising tension in my muscles. It kicks in. This desire or this automatic reflex of pandiculation kicks in for animals, and they automatically pandiculate. So if out in the wild, so say the zoologists that animals in the wild will pandiculate about 42 times a day, because and why? The question is, why would they do that? Why would their brain sense that tension building up in their muscles and feel the need to pandiculate automatically, reflexively? Because for animals, their body is their survival. If they have tension in their muscles and that gazelle can't run off like a shot when it senses the lion is getting a little too close, it's going to be dinner. And if that lion can't immediately, go from 0 to 60 to get that gazelle, the lion's going to go hungry. So their body is their survival. So, and yet we as humans, whenever we're feeling a little tight, we'll yawn. Babies will pandiculate upon rising. They don't think about it. Little kids, if you look at them, before they get out of bed, they tighten a little bit, and then they lengthen, and then they just languish. And because it wakes up and mobilizes their muscles for action. But as we get older, we begin to suppress that desire because, stop squirming. It's a little bit rude to do that in mixed company, So we start to ignore that reflexive desire to reduce the tension in our bodies. And this is why pandiculation is so important. It prepares your muscles for movement, and then it reduces the tension in your muscles when you're done with your movement.
So is pandiculation then, is it a specific set of movements, or is it more a little bit how you enter in terms of like, what you're doing? It's sort of like it's more of the spontaneity with the stretching and then the relaxation, or is it more like move your arms in this way?
Thank you for asking that. That's a good clarifying question. A pandiculation actually has 3 parts. And a pandiculation is generally full body. Even if you were to yawn, and I'm probably going to make myself yawn just by saying the word, it's not just your mouth opening and your jaw tightening. You'll find that the rest of your body comes along. A pandiculation is generally full body. However it's done, whether you move your arms or legs or what have you. But it has 3 parts. The first part of the pandiculation is a contraction inward, and tightening of the muscles slightly tighter than what's already there. If you think of a yawn in the morning, we tighten into our bodies a little bit more. Second step, and what that does is it sends a very strong signal to your sensory motor cortex to say, pay attention to me. These are the muscles that we want to release. The second step is a slow, controlled, mindful release out of that tension. Slow and mindful. Those are two operative words. It's not just a relax, right? And when that happens, your brain is taking back control of the muscle length and the function. It's reducing the tension in the muscles. The third step, complete letting go, which feels so good, gives your brain a second for to integrate the feedback. So then every time you pandiculate, you actually have more self-awareness and control of those muscles that you just reduce the tension in.
Hmm. So as part of what's happening is that you have this subliminal tension you're not aware of, and then by the exaggeration, it comes into your conscious awareness so that that helps the release.
Exactly. So for some people who are in a state of sensory motor amnesia, now that's the state of habituated muscle tension in response to life, stress and trauma and accidents and injuries and postural, repetitive actions. For instance, a good example is a lot of people say, I live with my shoulders up by my ears. And so much so that all you know is that your shoulders are up by your ears and it doesn't feel good. And you see it in yourself in every picture, every photograph. That instead of being down here, they're back up here. And you just don't know what to do about it. Well, because your brain has told those muscles to stay tight because it's responded so many times to the reflexes. It's one of the reflexes is the red light reflex of stress and worry protection, that your shoulders are now there. They've learned to stay tight. How do you change that? You tighten a little bit more and your brain goes, oh yeah, those shoulders. Oh yeah, I can feel that. And then as you slowly release, you actually release the muscles past the point that they were tight before. It's like having a tight belt. And instead of yanking on the belt, which is what we would do if we pressed on the shoulders and tried to release them, instead of yanking on the belt, you have to tighten the belt, just 1 or 2 notches. Then you can open the belt and take it off. Okay? And that's what we do when we pandiculate. Those muscles are unconscious, as you said, they're under our scope of awareness. In order to bring them to the voluntary awareness, we need to tighten a little bit more, and then we release past the point of the stuck tension.
Hmm. So this also helps make sense for why you were saying earlier that just stretching alone doesn't tend to free these things up, because you're not giving the space to exaggerate and then relax into something deeper.
Yes. And you're also, in order for the brain to change what it's doing, because it is a great organ of learning and habituation, you need to give it new and novel feedback. The brain is incredible when given new feedback. And so when you give it new and novel feedback, for instance, like in the example of the shoulders up by the ears, the new feedback is, oh, let's make it tighter, just a little bit. And now let's release it. That's something different. It's something different. And the brain instantly can make a change, but it's got to be different. Can't give it the same feedback of pulling and yanking.
That's really interesting. So maybe share a little bit more about the perspective of how this relates to trauma, and how when we have even like micro traumas, not things that maybe not aren't like big capital T traumas, but things that just lodge in our body. How, why is this such an effective technique for addressing that?
Well, it's an effective technique for many, many reasons. Number one is that the truth is that when we respond to trauma, whether it's capital T trauma or those little insults that just over time they build up and they're just a traumatic, or we're constantly stressed, so an overload of stress, which can feel very traumatic. Um, they're equally emotional, psychological, and physical in nature. So even though you may respond to, let's just say, hours at the computer because you've got to get that report in on time, and so you're physically feeling tight, you're emotionally stressed, you're psychologically stressed, you're physiologically stressed because you're not breathing deeply, right? So when you understand that's how stress builds up in your body on an emotional, psychological, and physical level, it's really important. It's an important step towards helping you move towards self-agency and freedom. Because here's what happens when animals, Stephen Levine talked about this in his book, Waking the Tiger, how animals, when they're out on the savannah, there's a gazelle out on the savannah munching grass, along comes a lion and boom, preying on that gazelle, and the gazelle is off like a shot. Okay. And it can respond a couple of ways. It can play dead, right? This is just lockdown, freezing response. And as soon as that lion loosens its jaws, boom, it's off like a shot again. Or the gazelle gets away, right? Flee. And once it knows that it's hasn't been eaten, if you've ever seen an animal who's had a severe trauma, okay, or a dog that was in a fight, it takes a couple of minutes and it shakes off that stress, right? And you may have even done this yourself. You shake off that stress. This is an instinctual thing to do, to shake off the stress of that very stressful event, okay? And then it will go back to pandiculating. And this resets their nervous system so that they can have a life-threatening event, but they can go back to munching grass 5 minutes later. What we do as human beings is because we have such a big brain and we can analyze things and we think our way out of stressful events, we get stuck in our stress. We can get stuck in our stress and in our trauma. Those who move their way through it are less likely to get stuck in trauma. But for many people, we get stuck in it, and then we feel helpless, we feel hopeless. And this translates into sensory motor amnesia. And this is that state of chronically habituated tension, stuckness in our muscles, and then I would say in our emotions and in our psychology, if this prevents us from moving freely. And yet, lest I forget to say, is that we get stuck in very specific patterns of holding our body. Maybe we withdraw inward, right? We're protecting ourselves. Maybe we had a reason to have to do that. And that's called the red light reflex. We hunker down like that animal who's waiting for the danger to pass, or we flee like the gazelle. Our back is tight, and we may suffer from back pain. But we're always on, and that shows up psychologically and emotionally as well. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. You're never turning yourself off. And maybe you're somebody who can't sleep because you're always going, always going. That can be a trauma response. And then there's the trauma reflex, the gallant reflex of twisting and rotating, avoiding, maybe because of an event or an accident or an injury or a lot of pain. Because of an accident. So we get stuck in these three stress reflexes. And so when we use pandiculation and somatic movements, what is so powerful for releasing out of trauma is that we actually intentionally recreate and then decreate those actual stress reflexes that you get stuck in response to an inordinate amount of stress or a small trauma T, a big T trauma, is we get stuck in these body postures. And so we recreate them in order to reduce the effects of them. And so that when we have to fight, flight, or freeze, when we have an event in which we need to go into our sympathetic nervous system state, we don't have to get stuck in those states because we can feel what we're doing. So this gives us power and agency over the reflexes, so the reflexes don't become who we are.
So is part of the reason the difference between humans and animals is we have more kind of neocortex, so we kind of are able to override this natural system?
Absolutely. We can say, We can say, well, yeah, I almost got mugged, or, I had a horrible car accident. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who say, yeah, I've had 6 car accidents, but nothing really bad ever happened. I mean, I was never in the hospital. And I think, wow, that's what I call rationalization, because a car accident is a pretty traumatic thing, and it can build up over time. So you go, well, I didn't end up in the hospital, but yet, because in the middle of your accident, or at the end of your accident, when you realize I'm not dead, I'm not injured, everybody's okay, you don't take the time to reduce the stress, to shake off the stress of a sudden event that could have killed you.
Mm.
And you just bottle it up, you suppress it. And for many people, they actually don't have a choice, or didn't have a choice at the time that something happened. They didn't have a choice as to flee. They had to, they had to suppress things. They had to deal with them on a daily basis. So we push it down. But when we pandiculate, we actually are working with what is unconscious. We bring it up to the conscious level so that so that the sensations that are stuck from the past trauma can be brought into the future, sensed, processed, and then integrated for what they really are, which is sensations from the past. And this is what can allow you to move forward in life instead of getting stuck in the past.
Is it always important to pair the pandiculation and the shaking? So you're kind of using the shaking to discharge some, and the pandiculation then helps to kind of like soften and open your whole system?
Well, actually, we don't really teach shaking. It is fun, and I will, in the course, I will be teaching a little bit of some shaking, but we actually teach pandiculation as the way to sense yourself, go into your tension, slowly release out of it. But then sometimes people have spontaneous shaking at the end of a pandiculation, and I just say, just notice that. Just let your body do what it wants to do. Just notice it. Don't try to stop it. Just sense it and move on.
So you're kind of taking off the override and then trusting the body's own intelligence to
Exactly.
lead the
That's a
way.
great way to say it.
Yeah, nice. You'd mentioned a term earlier, sensory motor amnesia, and maybe go a little bit more into that, since I think probably most people aren't even aware of a lot of the areas that they might be holding small t trauma to large T trauma.
Yeah. Well, sensory motor amnesia, here's the thing, is the sensory motor system is it's right up here at the top of your brain. And it is this system of your body, of your nervous system, that teaches you how to move. You move and you sense and you move. You have the sensory nerves going up and the motor nerves going down and out to the extremities, out to the muscles. So every single thing that we learn how to do in life, a perfect example is learning how to ride a bicycle. First, you need to sit on the seat and become aware of where you are. Put your hands on the handlebars, feet on the pedals. You move, you watch what you're doing. You have to pay attention. Maybe you fall off, maybe you don't quite get going until you get it. You practice, you do it again and again and again and again and again until you can get it. That's how we learn how to stand and walk. Babies learn how to crawl. So every single thing in life is everything we learn in life is sensory motor in nature. From learning how to speak to learning how to listen, that's a sensory motor experience, to walking, writing with a pen, riding a bicycle, dancing, everything. So when we get stuck in sensory motor amnesia, it means that the motor signal, the brain has actually gotten stuck in a feedback loop with the muscles responding, let's just say, to the red light reflex of protection. You've done this at the computer, or you've done this because maybe you were raised in a family where parents were yelling at each other, and you're doing this all the time. So you've done it enough so that your brain has learned, oh, okay, let's get ready for the next report on my computer, or the next time somebody yells. We're ready. We're already there. We've learned how to hold ourselves due to repeated, repetition, 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 repetition. So now we're just stuck. So now it's sensory motor amnesia, in that your brain does not have the voluntary control to say, oh, it's peaceful in the household, or I'm on vacation and I'm not on my computer. I can voluntarily come out of this. I don't have to worry anymore, or I don't have to work. So that's amnesia, because it's like a hamster on a hamster wheel. The brain is in a feedback loop. And the only way to interrupt that feedback loop is by giving it new and novel information. That's where pandiculation and somatic movements come in.
Hmm. Well, I think you've set a really great understanding and context of why this work is so effective at resolving, long-held traumas and tensions in the body. So I think now would be a good time to do a demonstration that we can all follow along with.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to add one more thing to what I said, is that sensory motor amnesia, it shows up as very, very specific conditions like back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, jaw pain, knee issues, joint issues, because when our muscles are tight, we can't move freely anymore, and we become, it puts tension on our joints and interrupts the natural flow of movement in our bodies. And so that's where pandiculation will free you up. So I'm going to ask everybody to do this along with us. This is what I like to call a freestyle pandiculation. Now, and let me explain. So I'd like you to just sit. You can close your eyes, or you could be standing. That's fine as well. And just in your mind's eye, I'd like you to imagine the three reflexes that I explained. Don't move, but imagine as if you had to run out the front door, right? Your back would tighten, okay? You'd be like a soldier at attention. Or you're slouched at your computer. Your front shortens, your face goes forward, everything contracts inward. Or you're avoiding, you just slipped, uh, um, you just slipped, and you're trying to regain your balance, and one side of your body becomes tighter than the other. So now you're tipped a little bit to the side. So just imagine those three. And now tune into your own body and ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your personal level of tension? And you might say, well, it's pain, really. Tension or pain or stuckness, okay? Just pick a number. And now, go ahead and whichever reflex you feel that you're stuck in, maybe your back is tight, your front is tight, maybe one side is tight, maybe everything is tight. Very gently begin to tighten more into that reflex. Let everything come along that wants to come along. If you're tightening your belly, let your shoulders come up. Let your fists clench. Let your toes scrunch. Tighten gently in, and then very slowly release out of it. Very slowly. Pay attention to what you feel as you're doing this. And then let everything go. Take several resting breaths and ask yourself, okay, now what number am I at? If I was at 8 on the scale when I started, has the number gone down? Maybe I'm at 6. And now notice somewhere else in your body that's tight. Might be your buttocks or the left side of your back. Doesn't matter. Go ahead and gently tighten in. Let your body make a pattern of tension. That doesn't matter. Just create whatever shape you feel that you're tight in. Hold it just for a second, and then slowly, slowly melt out of it, almost like a wax statue that is melting. When you get to the end, completely let go, switch everything off, and ask yourself, now what level are you at? Now what number are you at? Have you decreased the level of tension in your body, and why?
Beautiful. It's very simple, but it's very practical to be able to do that, and you do that throughout the day whenever you notice tensions, or is it's good to do
Sure.
a macro practice that like once, do a sort of a longer extended version?
Well, that's a good question because, you don't really, we don't live life on the floor. And while, I can teach people a lot of wonderful practices to be not on the floor, if you're at your desk and you're feeling tension, what's to hold you from just contract into it and just slowly release out of it and make up your own pandiculation. Do what a child would do if it were getting, antsy and school's about to let out and they just want to get out of there. And just wiggle a little bit, tighten in, and then slowly release. You can do it anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. You had also mentioned that you'd have a differentiation technique that you're going to share with us. Can we do that now?
Yes, differentiation is, again, it's new feedback to your brain. It disrupts the habits of your brain so that we do something different. We do something we don't, man, we wonder, is it really going to be effective? Is it going to help my overall movement? And indeed it does. So this is a really fun one, um, in which I'm going to teach you how to improve your ability to twist. So and we'll do it just very briefly. Go ahead and just choose an arm and a thumb and pop it out in front of you. And whichever arm and thumb you're looking at, the only rule is you got to keep your eyes on that thumb and that hand, okay? And just go ahead and twist around the back as far as you can go comfortably, but you got to look at your thumb. You've got to follow your hand with your eyes in your head. When you feel tension, stop. That's your current limit. Come on back. Close your eyes. Now, very slowly, allow your head and your eyes to shift very slowly from the right. No forcing, no forcing. Lazily let your head and your eyes follow to the left. And you could open your eyes and do this as well. And look at everything in the room, absolutely everything. If your eyes are jumpy, jerky, and shaky, that's just sensory motor amnesia. And do that 2 more times. Slowly looking. Your eye muscles can get tight and tense as well. Notice if this is changing the way that you're breathing. Can you continue to breathe as you do this? Good. And then come on back to the center. You can keep your eyes open or closed. It's your choice. Now, whichever arm you popped out in front, that same side of your waist, I'd like you to do something else. Drop that arm down and imagine there's something on the floor you'd like to pick up. Okay? And very slowly, as you exhale into that side of the waist, go ahead and tip over and gently imagine you're going to pick that thing up. Let your head go along. Notice how your opposite waist lengthens and slowly come on back up, but sweep your arm away from the center. Breathe into that side of the waist. And then just imagine you're going to put that thing right on a shelf above your head. Good. Stay there. Take a breath into that side of the waist and the ribs and do it one more time. Gently notice what happens as you let your head tip. Your whole spine is curving to the side. Please, no forcing, no forcing. And then slowly do it one more time. Sweep your arm away. Notice the lengthening of your waist. Stop at the top. Breathe into that side of the rib cage, all the way up into your armpit, and let your arm just fall. Just come on down. Now, pop your hand, same arm, out in front of you. Don't forget, the only rule is you got to keep your eyes on your thumb. And go ahead and turn around yourself all the way. Keep turning your head, your eyes, your neck, your torso, and notice, have you gone any farther? Come on back and notice, have you improved your range of motion? And if
Yeah,
so,
I did by several inches. Yeah.
yeah. And you think, well, I didn't yank and I didn't force, but what did you do? You interrupted the habits of your brain, which might have been, I
Hmm.
can't move my neck, or I don't move my torso when I turn, I can't twist. Well, the ability to twist isn't about the arm. It's about all the eyes, the neck, the head, the torso, the waist. the center of your body.
Hmm.
So that's a fun differentiation.
Hmm. So a lot of those patterns of contraction or lack of mobility are really first in our consciousness, it sounds like, and then that it's really not in the physical structure for the most part.
Well, it's in our brain. It's in our brain, and the brain automatically sends it to our bodies, and
Uh-huh.
it can, we have a tendency as humans to ignore what happens in the body and then focus on our brain and our consciousness, and yet, as Thomas Hanna called us somas, of the body as experienced from within, that we're not a body. We show up as a body, and I can see you as a body, and we look at people's hair color or their body shape or their joints, and that's an important thing to be able to do, is to see other people from the outside in, because we'll never know what it feels like to be someone else. But when you look at yourself from the inside, that's at the somatic perspective, you'll notice that when you close your eyes, what's happening? Are you thinking? Are you feeling? Is there movement? Well, if you transgress the skin, there's always movement. There are blood vessels. There's a beating heart. There's all sorts of things happening. Nerve conduction. There's movement at all times in the body, in our bodies. But so that's the somatic perspective, is the fact that we're not a body and a mind. We're a soma, which is really the body, the mind, the spirit, the consciousness. It's everything all packaged together.
Hmm. That's really beautifully articulated. I wonder if you could share a little bit how some of this core work around pandiculation gets blended with other somatic movement techniques from Hana somatics or elsewhere.
I find that the somatic movement practice, especially if people have big T trauma, or or just stress in general, um, these this practice and these techniques really set you up in your day. They're complementary. They do not take the place of what you love to do. They set you up to be more aware of yourself, more embodied within yourself. And really, you're arming yourself with knowledge about how your brain and your body work. And that's huge, to have the knowledge of how you function. So that things are not a mystery, so that the way that you respond to life is not that much of a mystery. However, these practices are extremely helpful to prepare you to be more embodied in your day, so that you're more present to yourself. If you're, as Bessel van der Kolk said, when you trauma, it hijacks your brain. And when your brain is out of sync, you are out of sync with yourself. If you are out of sync with yourself, you are out of sync with everyone around you, whether you know it or not. The first thing to do is get your brain back in sync so that you can sync up with yourself. And I find that pandiculation is an incredibly effective pandiculation and somatic movements. A practice of somatic movements are incredibly effective at doing just that. That being said, it doesn't take the place of a wonderful trauma therapy like EMDR, or trauma-informed psychotherapy, or your favorite activity, dancing, singing, chanting, doing yoga, hiking, right? We want to be able to move through life actively, but if we're not aware that we're disconnected, everything we do will be slightly disconnected. And as far as vigorous activity, we actually might even get injured, because we're not aware that we're actually not 100% in control. Our brain is not in control of our muscles as effectively, as efficiently as it could be.
Really interesting stuff. So it might be interesting for folks to really see how you could do like a pretty specific somatic movement and then integrate that with a pandiculation if you're trying to release and open a particular area.
Absolutely. And there are movements. See, all of the movements, I think, as I said in the beginning, all of the basic movement patterns that we teach as somatic movements, and all of them are done as pandiculations. They're recreations of the stress reflex patterns that we all can get stuck in. But at the same time, these are developmental movement patterns that we've been doing since the day we were born, extending our spine, rounding and flexing our spine, twisting and rotating, getting the shoulders to move in conjunction with, in coordination with the pelvis, moving the arms and the legs. You know, the whole body from center out to the periphery becomes more intelligent through doing somatic movements and pandiculating into and out of them. Because as you pandiculate, you reduce muscle tension in all of these muscles, which attach to the joints as you do these movement patterns, which, as I said, are developmental movement patterns. They are in the human movement vocabulary. Everybody knows how to do them. Well, you become more efficient and effective at doing them, and they are the building blocks of the more vigorous movements you might want to do, whether it's yoga, hiking, dancing, riding a bicycle.
Hmm. Well, truly fascinating, Martha. And I want to go deeper now into how people can continue this work with you and really bring the somatic intelligence into how you're working with trauma, with tension, which is freeing your body up. Since it's really so clear, as you talked about from your own story, that if our bodies are more constrained, then our life is more constrained, and we start to feel and feel more limited on many levels. And so I think you have such a sophisticated understanding of how to open everything up and get into a deeper alignment and flow with who we are. So the program that Martha's going to be teaching is called Somatic Movement and Pandiculation to release trapped trauma, tone down your stress reflexes for freedom of movement in your body and your life. You can see it laid out in detail at the URL relievestucktension.com, relievestucktension.com. It's a 7-week program. There's no prerequisites. And so it's really just if you feel called, if you're feeling like your body has gotten more constrained in different ways, or there's chronic pains or issues or tensions that you can't quite figure out how to move through or open up, this is a great way to do that and to really experience the wider life that's possible. So Martha, I'd love for you to share in your own words really about your intentions for the program and what people will get out of it.
Oh, my intentions for the program are, first of all, to help people become aware of what they feel right now in the present moment. To move from becoming aware of your body, becoming aware of where you hold your tension, how you hold your tension, and learning how to connect with yourself in a safe and comfortable and present day way that begins to take you out of maybe the stories and the things of the past, so that you can be present in your body on a daily basis, tolerate uncomfortable feelings, and be able to move forward to a beautiful future. And we're going to do that over the course of 7 weeks. And what I really want to convey is you will get skills that you can use even in uncomfortable situations, because we're all going to find ourselves in uncomfortable, difficult conversations or moments when we just kind of want to get out of there, or we just don't feel good in our bodies. How do we stay present in our bodies? What techniques can we use so that we don't become hijacked by the stress of life?
Sounds great. So module 1 is called Begin to Reconnect to Yourself to Release Tension and Stress and Restore a Sense of Calm.
And so we're going to start right out of the box using a couple of very gentle movements that I hope you will use for the rest of your life in your daily practice, whether standing, lying down, or seated, to begin to explore your breath. Where do you breathe from? Where is your breath stuck? And a couple of techniques just to reduce tension in your nervous system, just to begin to create calm in order to improve your breathing by using pandiculation and these couple of very gentle movements that are very pleasant as well.
Module 2, learn about hypervigilance, the flight response, and how to release tension in your back muscles.
Yes. We all live life in a very, stressful and 21st century environment. Okay. We use our backs. Often we get stuck in that tension of our backs. And that's also a kind of almost like the meerkat that's looking around for, where's the danger? Where's the predator, right? We're always on high alert and wondering, when the next shoe is going to drop. So I'm going to teach you a couple of very wonderful movements, a very powerful movement called the back lift, to begin to feel where you hold tension in your back. What do you do about it in a way that's really gentle, really accessible? So we'll play with that movement, and then how to do another movement for the front of your body so that you can get the back and the front of your body to play nice. So you can find more of a sense of groundedness and neutral rather than a constant, being stuck and moving forward.
Module 3, free yourself from the posture of collapse and freeze to release tension in the center of your body and breathe more easily.
Well, this one is very common. This is the red light reflex of collapsing, freezing, and of protection. So we'll talk about how that actually has a very big effect on the vagus nerve, and how the movements that you're going to learn can also support the vagus nerve and release all the muscles of the front of the body, begin to really deepen your breath and release tension in your shoulders and your neck as well.
Module 4, release the jaw and eyes to calm the nervous system and let go of deep tension.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people also get braced, so they're not sure if their tension is the front, the back, or the sides. They have no idea where it is, right? So, but a lot of tension and trauma is held right here in the eyes, the jaw, the tongue, the larynx. It's 33.3% of our brain map. So this will be a wonderful module to very gently go much deeper into the workings of your brain in order to release the deep tension that can build up in response to life. Very calming for the nervous system. It will really begin to move you towards the ability to sleep better. But that comes later.
Module 5, the power of differentiation and reconnection to improve your movement and sensations.
Well, differentiation isn't differentiation, as I said in our little demo, is when you really disrupt the habits of the brain with seemingly insignificant small movements, but that have a very, very deep effect on the full body freedom that you're seeking. So we'll also work with movements of the hands and the fingers. But again, this is another 33.3% of our brain map. We have a lot of sensory information that comes from our fingers into our brain. So we'll play with differentiations of the fingers and the hands, the eyes and the head, and you'll begin to improve your ability to twist and to move yourself from the center outward.
Module 6, somatic movements for restful sleep.
Yes. Now, however many, I don't know how many are watching say, well, I just want to sleep like a baby and wake up feeling refreshed. I just don't sleep well. This module will go into that. How do you use these movements, and especially your increasing ability by module 6 to really feel comfortable in your body? How do you create a practice that you could do at the end of the day that will ensure a deep, rejuvenating, restful sleep?
So important. And
Mm.
finally, module 7, find your balance to find your groundedness and joy.
That'll be a fun class. A lot of people and I know that I can relate to this when I was feeling like my life and my body were just tightening inward, is movement had lost its joy for me. And for a lot of people who've either been in pain, which itself is a trauma, ongoing pain can change who you are. Moving in a joyous, connected way is a really important way to connect us, not just to ourselves, but to those around us. And so we're going to get up off the floor and really feel our feet, feel ourselves from our feet up to the top of our head, out to our fingertips, and begin to move playfully so that you can feel really feel safe, have fun.
Well, it's clearly going to be such a liberating and playful program. You really bring such a joy to this work, and so I know it's got a proven track record of results, and really is just creates so much more freedom in your body. So a few more things about the program. Again, it's laid out in more detail at relievestucktension.com, relievestucktension.com. So you're going to get not only the 7 90-minute live sessions where you can ask Martha your questions live, and you're also going to get recordings of every session with video and audio. And those are particularly helpful to go back and do the practices again and be guided in them. Sometimes it's good to return a year or two from now and you kind of reconnect with the practices if you've let them slide at all. There's also word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There's weekly exercises for home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that that Martha's brought forward to enhance your journey. There's a PDF article on daily somatic awareness practices. There's also a video practice called seated shoulder releases. And you had given that example earlier, Martha, about people's shoulders kind of being frozen up. You want to share a little bit about that video about seated shoulder releases?
Yeah, that video shows you things that you can do at your desk for however many of you are, or in your car at a stoplight, granted, to release tension in your shoulders. So many of us carry around so much tension in our shoulders, and pandiculations you can do, boom, in 1 or 2 minutes that can release tension in your shoulders. You can go back to what you were doing before. So that you'll find that you're going to use these releases quite frequently. They're very, very user-friendly.
Great. And then there's also one special bonus that folks get when you sign up by midnight tonight, and that is called Somatic Awareness, Somatic Principles, and a Sense of Humor. There's a video interview with Martha and Meg Peterson, and you want to share a little bit more about that special bonus folks get if they sign up right away by midnight?
Absolutely. Meg Peterson is my mother, and my mother is who brought me to this practice. And when I was 47 and limping around in pain, not knowing what to do, my mother was 77 and trekking in the Himalayas. So Meg Peterson is a fascinating woman who has suffered her own fair share of trauma in her life, and yet found through the principles of clinical somatics, HANA somatics, through having a fantastic sense of humor, understanding how to reframe the things that happen to us in life. She has moved forward to now she's 96 and she's still active. She's sharp as a tack. And I think she has a lot of wisdom to share with all of us about what it means to live an embodied life and a life that is outside of the box that many of us have created for ourselves.
What an incredible testimonial to have her so active and at 96, you said, or 97.
Yeah.
Amazing. And also the lineage you're part of. That's what a blessing that you're just carrying on this deeper work with your mother. So that's the special bonus you get when you sign up by midnight tonight. That's the interview with Martha and her mother, Meg, on somatic awareness, somatic principles, and a sense of humor, which is very important to free us up. So it's truly going to be such a beautiful program, and we're very excited about it. We've kept the investment very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start August 13th and run Tuesdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts in the community as well. And I also encourage you to go to the page and check out some of the testimonials. I love these. Like Paula from Ireland said, I found this course a revelation. It's been wonderful to engage via video. I've become more aware, even in simple movement, like walking on a sidewalk or sitting while driving, just how my body is moving. My adult body realigned in a simple and powerful way. I've learned so much about slowing down and going deeper with somatics. Really great testimonials from people who've studied with Martha in her previous programs with Shift. You're really in great hands, and I think you'll have a fun time with this as well, since she just has a really wonderful and joyful, empowering spirit about her. So you are, I think, going to be in for a treat if you choose to move forward and really experience a lot more freedom, and particularly releasing trauma that you may not even be aware of in your body. So again, the program is called Somatic Movement and Pandiculation to Release Trapped Trauma, and you can find all the details at relievestucktension.com. I mean, sorry, Martha, we have a few minutes left, and I'm wondering anything that's still on your heart we haven't shared yet today, and just a final invitation into your next program.
Well, yeah, I teaching this program in particular makes me think of a woman who came to a live event with me in England, many years ago. And I always love to ask people to share at the end of an event. And her one takeaway was, I realize that I've been living in a prison of my own making, and that I now have the key and I can unlock it anytime. I'm free. And that, gives me chills when I say it. She realized she was at the source of her stuckness, but now she has the key and she can get out anytime she wants. And that's what I hope for everyone who comes to this course, is to give you everything that I know to help you, if you feel stuck in your life, to give you the keys to freedom that you can apply whenever you want, wherever you want, in order to unlock the kind of life, the kind of physical sensations that you're looking for, that you know are possible because you are this beautiful human soma. So I look forward to teaching this course. I look forward to meeting all of you, and I encourage you to come to the course, explore, trust the process, and know that I am always honored to share this work, to witness people's process, and to support you as you move your way to the life that you want to live.
Mm. What a beautiful and warm-hearted invitation. So it's really clear how much passion you have for this. And I know people are going to be blessed who choose to join you. So again, it's all at relievestucktension.com, relievestucktension.com, and really offering you the keys to greater bodily freedom, psychological freedom, and ultimately spiritual freedom. So thank you, Martha, for the blessing of you and your work, and this offering of the full 7-week program that people can join you on at relievestucktension.com. And they'll get
Thank you
that
so
special
much.
bonus with you and your mother when they sign up at midnight tonight.
Yes. So even if you're involved in other work for yourself, this work will be a complement and move you even farther. So yes, sign up
Great.
now and you get to listen to my mother and me talk.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Martha. Joyful to be with you. And thank you all for joining. Many blessings, and look forward to seeing many of you in the program.
Take care.